All right, let's get started. For the following questions, which property will prove the triangles congruent? For number one, remember, first, let's mark what we have. This angle is congruent to this angle, and this side is congruent to this side. Can we prove anything else is congruent in this pair of triangles? Well, we know these two angles are congruent. Why are they congruent? Those are vertical angles. So let's reevaluate. We've got an angle here is congruent to this angle. These two angles are congruent. And these two sides are congruent. Let's see, do we have the same pattern? There's an angle here, and an angle here, and a side here. Why are these two triangles congruent? Remember, when you name why the triangles are congruent, you can either skip an angle or a side. So if we start with this angle here, this is going to be angle, angle, side. Cannot go this way because we would be skipping this side and this angle right here. Number two, again, let's label what we have. We have this angle is congruent to this angle. This side is congruent to this side. And we also know these two angles are congruent. Again, why? Vertical angles are congruent. So for this one, same pattern over here, angle, side, angle. Therefore, those two triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle. Let's look at the next one. This is a side. This is a side. Remember, when two triangles share a side, automatically put your tick marks in there. That is also a side. Same pattern over here. Here's this side is congruent to this side. This side is congruent to this side. And this side is congruent to this side using the reflexive property. Therefore, these two triangles are congruent by side, side, side. Next one. Here's an angle, and here's a side. Can we prove this angle is congruent to this angle? Or this angle is congruent to this angle? There is no reason to prove those two angles are congruent. Can we prove anything about any of the remaining sides? Do we know this side is congruent to this side? Or this side is congruent to this side? We do not know that. We cannot prove that. Therefore, these triangles, we cannot prove they are congruent. So we're going to write none there. Okay, what we know is this angle is congruent to this angle. And we know this side is congruent to itself using the reflexive property. All right, this is also a side. Now, can we prove anything else in this triangle right here is congruent to anything in the other triangle, another angle or another side? No. So the answer here is no. All right, let's look at the next one. So if I look at this one triangle right here, this is an angle. This is also an angle, because if this angle is a right angle, this one is also a right angle. These two angles are a linear pair. They are supplementary. And then they share a side. So, angle, angle, side. All right, this problem right here, they want to know which triangles are congruent and by which method. So if we look at this angle right here, we know angle B is congruent to angle A. And we know that side AP is congruent to side BW. We also know that EB is congruent to AT. So, when it says what triangles are congruent, that's what the question's asking. Triangle AP APT is congruent. Remember that you have to go in corresponding order. So, in other words, angle A is congruent to angle B, so B must go first. P is congruent to, do we know? Well, let's see. If I went from this angle down to past the single tick mark, that means I'm going to go from B past the single tick mark. It'll be W. And then T is congruent to E. So that tells me this angle right here is congruent to that angle right there. By which method? Side, angle, side. The equation, we have to solve for x. Well, these two angles are equal. So 5x equals 65. Solve for x, x equals 13. Same thing over here. What do we know? Let's look at this. Well, that's a right angle. So that means we have a right triangle. First thing I want to try for a right triangle is hypotenuse leg. Here's my hypotenuse. Here's a hypotenuse. Leg and a leg. So by which method? Hypotenuse, leg. Now, we know that CAT, triangle, CAT, is congruent to triangle. So I started here, went past the single tick mark to the right angle. So I'm going to start here with D, go past the single tick mark to the right angle, and then over to G. So it's going to be D, O, G. Equation. Therefore, as a result, I know that side AT is congruent to OG. So 4x equals x plus 63. 3x equals 63. X equals 21. Next one. Solve for the missing variables. These tick marks indicate to me that this is an isosceles triangle. So this side is opposite that angle, and this side is opposite this angle. Since this is an isosceles triangle, these base angles are congruent, which means this angle right here is 40 degrees. Three angles in a triangle add up to equal 180. So 4x plus 10 plus 40 plus 40 equals 180. X equals 22.5. Notice that is not degrees because x is not an angle measure. Okay, again, isosceles triangles. These two angles are congruent. Those are your base angles. Therefore, these two sides are congruent. So 4x plus 10 equals 5x minus 25, and x equals 35. Next one. Again, we have an isosceles triangle. This side is opposite that angle. This side is also opposite this angle. These two angles are congruent. So I can find these angle measures by, I can give this a variable. I can put z in here and z in here. So z plus z plus 54 equals 180. Z equals 63, and this one is degrees. Well, How does that help me get x? I could do this a couple different ways. These two angles right here are supplementary. So 180 minus 63 equals 117. So if this angle right here is 117. And then I know that this is also an isosceles triangle. This side and this side are congruent. Therefore, these two angles are congruent. So I could say 180 minus 117 equals 63. 63 divided by 2 equals 31.5 degrees. Next one. Again, you have an isosceles triangle. This side is congruent to this side. Therefore, these two angles are congruent. So this angle is also x minus 2. Three angles inside a triangle. Notice that that angle is outside the triangle. Three angles inside the triangle add together equal 180. So I have x minus 2 plus x minus 2 plus 4x plus 10 equals 180. That's 6x's plus 6 equals 180. X equals 29. So this angle right here is 27 degrees. Well, how do I find y? These two angles are a linear pair. Therefore, 3y plus 27 equals 180. Y equals 51, not degrees.